The most commonly used type of scale is a Likert scale, or summative scale. Such a scale consists of comparable statements that are supposed to measure the same property. Respondents can indicate to what extent they agree with or endorse each statement. Likert items should be monotone, meaning that respondents are consistently more likely to agree with the item if they possess the property to a greater degree. This is necessary because the scores on the items will be added. Let's take my cat fondness questionnaire as an example. Items 1, 4, and 5 will show stronger agreement from people who are fond of cats. Items 2 and 3 will show stronger disagreement. After items 2 and 3 are recoded, all items are monotone. A higher score indicates higher cat fondness. An example of a non-monotone item is cats are a necessary evil to get rid of mice. People who love cats will disagree, but extreme cat haters will also disagree. They will feel cats are just evil and not necessary at all. A score could indicate high or low cat fondness. There are other types of scales, such as differential scales, that allow for non-monotone items, and cumulative scales, where the items themselves should show consistent ordering, each item expressing the property more strongly than the previous one. These scales are not used very often, though. Likert items generally have 3 to 7 discrete response options, indicating strength of agreement. But a visual analog or graphic rating scale can also be used. This is a graphic representation, usually a simple line segment, with 2 extremes at each end, like disagree and agree. A respondent simply marks the line to indicate their position. Some items will be harder to endorse than others because they represent more extreme cat fondness. Psychometricians and sociometricians use statistical techniques such as item response theory to assess an item's difficulty. Okay, so how are Likert scale questionnaires constructed? Well, the construction of a questionnaire starts with a clear description of the property to be measured. Often, different dimensions can be distinguished, which are measured with a subset of items that form a subscale. Identifying dimensions requires an in-depth analysis of the construct. It helps to consider different types of situations or areas in which the property can be expressed. For example, academic motivation can be intrinsic. You love the subject matter, but it can also be extrinsic. You expect to get a better job if you graduate. It also helps to consider the different ways in which a construct can be expressed. For example, academic motivation can be expressed in attitudes and behavior. Aggression can be expressed verbally or physically. Once the relevant dimensions are identified, items are generated for each unique combination of dimensions. Ideally, each item describes a specific situation and a specific expression of the property. Respondents can easily misinterpret vague or too general items. In general, all items, not just Likert items, should be well formulated. This means item formulation should be short and simple. Things like double negation, unfamiliar words, and overly complicated formulations should be avoided. The item, I do not take an unfavorable stance towards physical interaction involving fur stroking with creatures of the feline genus, will probably confuse many respondents. Formulations should also be unambiguous. Take the item, cats are funny creatures. Does this mean that cats make you laugh, or that you think they're strange? Double-barreled questions are another source of ambiguity. Take the question, I love to pet and pick up cats. How should people respond who like to pet cats but don't like picking them up? Also, items should be neutral, not suggestive. An item like, don't you agree that most cats are friendly, could influence impressionable people to give a more favorable answer than they would have given otherwise. Items should be answerable for all respondents. For example, people who've never been in direct contact with a cat cannot answer items 1, 2, and 3 of my questionnaire. Perhaps I should have included a filter question, asking if people have ever physically interacted with a cat. Extreme wording should also be avoided. Using words like never or always makes items very hard to moderately agree or disagree with. Take the item, cats are purely evil creatures. Even moderate cat haters will probably disagree with this statement. Of course, response options also need to be unambiguous and consistent. Response options need to be exhaustive and mutually exclusive. Exhaustive means all respondents should be able to reflect their position on the property. If you ask people their age and only provide the options 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and 40 to 50, then teenagers and people over 50 cannot respond. These categories are also not mutually exclusive. People who are 30 or 40 will have a hard time choosing between categories. Changing the options to 0 to 30, 31 to 40, and 41 and over fixes both problems. Of course, there is much more to item, scale, and questionnaire construction than the points I've discussed here. There are many more scale types, item types, and response options, and different ways to implement these, for example, by combining self-report with ratings by others. Also, there are many more aspects to consider, such as item order and how to deal with sensitive questions. We've only just scratched the surface here.